Hey, welcome back. It is Tuesday. We are streaming on Tuesdays now. So, Tuesdays and Thursdays, those are the new days. Hope that you are having a great day wherever you are. And let me just make it so that I can actually see the chat. Uh, do, 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 do. Theater mode. No. Start casting settings. Live. Oh, come on. Where's the chat? That's silly. Is it because it's too small? Gonna try refreshing it. Maybe that'll. There we go. Let me see if it pops up now. No, gets rid of it. Do 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 do. Anyway, this is what I'm painting today. I'm painting a Komodo dragon. And feel free to chat with me in the chat. I've got the chat windows up on a screen in front of me. I should be able to see them fairly easily today. I will try to catch them as soon as they pop up, but please forgive me if they don't pop up right away. I know that there's always a very slight delay in the time it takes for the chat to reach the screen versus when I respond. Okay, what's on this layer? Nothing. What's on this layer? Okay. So this must have been, I must have intended for this to be a multiply layer. Let's do multiply. And let's grab a blue. And we'll grab a big brush. See how this goes. I don't know how it's going to go with the oil brush. Might be a little, yeah, it's a little too thick. It's pretty dark. Let's lighten that a little bit. So right now I'm just adding that shadow detail in here. It's going to be kind of thick at first. I'll play around with things on top of it so that it doesn't look so dark. So adding this shadow in helps the 3D form start to come through, which is why I do it. This is how I've learned to do it from Aaron Blaze. He always recommends using a multiply layer with a cool color like a blue. And going over the darkest darks first, and then working your way up in multiple passes through different variations of light and dark. But the key is contrast. The challenging part is still remembering to keep a level of simplicity to it all. It's very easy for me to get caught up in tiny details and miss out on clearly communicating some of the larger shapes. So I just have to be conscious of it so that I don't fall into that trap. Cleaning up a couple of these edges I'm not terribly fond of. I don't want to forget the angles of the layers of the skin here, because the way it hangs, the Komodo dragon, even though his skin is very scaly and tough and very thick and leathery, um, the the folds in the skin still bunch up where there's some flexibility. So not so much on the face where there isn't a whole lot of rigidity because it's basically wrapping around the hard bony structure of the skull, but down here in the neck where the vertebrae would be the only bones up all the way into the shoulder, they have kind of a long neck, and they're able to swivel and turn quickly. And so having having this extra bunched skin that wrinkles and overlaps and folds on itself uh, gives you that folded texture. So I'll be aiming to capture some of that today. The level of detail in this particular piece, because he's scaly, uh, probably more than I can accomplish in tonight. but we'll see. I'll work it as far as I can in the streaming time I have. Just gonna grab some water. Something like that. After I've laid in all my shadows, I'll come back in with a blender and blend these darker spots that are just a little too wide or not quite what I'm looking for. For some of these other areas here, I'm gonna have to go with a larger brush and grab some of this. Still working on those shadows. And keeping it light. I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure on the stylus because if I go very hard, it's going to look very strange. I want this to feel like a good complement to the skin. I've used the term married to the other colors, and I feel like that's a good way to describe it. The colors are blended in a way where separating them would make them awkward. They're joined and they belong together and they mold together. They help each other out, um, become something new. It's a good description for it, I think. Just going extra, extra light up in some of these areas at the top because they are catching the very smallest amount of light, so much so that they seem like they're in shadow. And anything I paint, I can undo. You know, I'm not stuck with it. Okay, got that. Got that. Goes up to almost here. And a little bit on the edge of that brow. Subtle, but there. Okay. So we got a lot of shadow here on the multiply layer, and we can kind of zoom out and see what that looks like. And I'll just double check the chat, make sure that I'm not missing anything. Okay. Just moving things back around. All right. So at the moment, these shadows are pretty loose. So what I need to do is do a little bit of blending to help them to ease in, and then let me see, where's the blend? Is it must be higher? There it is. All right, let's start with the blending. So just softening some of these areas. Oh, thank you, Luco. Thanks for being here. How are you today? It's just paintbrush strokes. So it's also contrast. So um, if I add a layer here, I can show you. If I pick this lighter color that I used and I lay it over the top of the dark, there we go. Shrink down the size of the brush a bit. You can see yeah, usually. Well, I try to think of art as something that is both cathartic and enjoyable. It helps me to zone out, process, and think about things. Now, I won't necessarily do that for every single area. I might let some of the darker areas stay pretty dark, and in which case I wouldn't need to do a whole bunch of detail. Um, but there are pieces, usually with hair, where I'll go in and I'll draw tons and tons of hairs, um, very much like I'm doing with the scales here. So it really just depends on the piece. And sometimes I lay this stuff in and end up like blending it and then have to go back over it again. Just depends on what I'm aiming for. But I like it. I'm pretty much at the point where I can get rid of some of these lines, I think. What does it look like if I drop the sketch layer? Mm, we're almost there. Almost. Struggling with motivation, I can 100%, 1000% relate. But I just because I struggle with it doesn't mean I can't win that wrestling match. And I find if I just do something else for a little bit and come back to it after not too long, I've got fresher eyes. I think something else that motivates me is seeing other people. And so if you follow particular artists, not just any random artist who draws like fan art or, and there's nothing inherently wrong with fan art unless you sell it. Um, but if you just follow random people, you're not going to get a whole lot of motivation there. But if you follow people that do things that you really admire, um, maybe even people who are at a level that you want to be, um, that can be motivating. It can also easily become uh, kind of like a distraction, either because you're focused on where they currently are compared to where you are, and so you are overly critical, or because you get so wrapped up in watching their videos and tutorials or buying their books and flipping through the pages that you don't actually set the time aside to get to where you want to be. I have fallen for both of those traps. It sounds like you don't really want to run a business then. It sounds like maybe what you'd like to do is just something that utilizes your art. Because running a business is all those things that you mentioned that you don't like. I am also struggling with those things, but I don't hate it enough to not do it. Okay. So it sounds like you have somewhat of a vision of what you would like to do, which I think is probably the hardest part, is figuring out exactly what kind of niche you want to fill. It sounds like video game art is what you want to do. Now, is it specifically anything? Is it like, um, do you have a thing that you like to focus in? Is it landscapes? Is it animals? Is it characters, environments, props? Like when you sit down to draw, what makes you happy? Character illustration. Okay. So, what you need to do, if that is something that you would like to achieve, is you need to start building your character portfolio and build it up. But don't just draw random stuff, and uh, don't do fan art. Um, like if you're submitting to Capcom, don't draw a bunch of Resident Evil. It's not something that they will be looking for. Now, if you can draw in a similar style to the way things look in their games, that's what will get you noticed. But guaranteed, they get hundreds, maybe even thousands of applications that they just toss away because the people just did fan art. It doesn't show what you bring to the table. A character designer is someone who creates things, who is an idea person, who can look at something and try it a bunch of different ways. Um, if they hire you as a character designer, they're hiring you for what you bring, your ideas, not what they've already established. Uh, yeah. If I think it'll let you post illustrating characters and such. Okay. Um, so you might need a little more direction then. There are lots of different ways that you can go about it. Um, if you're interested in at least exploring character design, um, if you do a Google search, you can find a lot of different resources on that. There's also plenty of videos on YouTube and professional artists who have YouTube channels that talk all about, what makes good character design, how to improve on like basics and all sorts of stuff to help you level up. The problem with lacking motivation is that you're not going to have the endurance or the body of work to be able to handle a career. Um, so it's as much, it's kind of like for the art industry, if you were to submit a portfolio of some sketches that you have and maybe somehow get in, which is unlikely, um, it's kind of like trying out for a professional sports team and all you've done is maybe shot some hoops in your driveway. You're not going to last, right? You don't have the muscles, you don't have the endurance or the practice yet to take it far. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do it on your own, um, and build it up over time. Just like you could go to a gym and build those muscles, and even if you don't have anybody to uh, build those skills off of, you can educate yourself. You can continue to practice on your own and let that be something that drives you. Is not even just getting a job, but building a portfolio, something that you can be proud of, that you can look at and say, "Hey, look what I did." um, okay, plateaus happen. Plateaus are normal for when you are learning and growing. The only way they ever stop is if you've finally done it so much that it's like breathing. Then you won't plateau anymore. I don't see the link. No, I think it won't let you post it. Um, yeah. It has a bunch of asterisks. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Um, it's not. So I think the thing to think about is treat building your portfolio like starting a college degree, right? You don't walk onto a college campus and get handed a degree. it takes it takes time and focus. You can get it. It's very possible. Many people get it, right? You can build a portfolio. You can maybe that's not the best example then. But what I'm saying is that it's something that can be attained. It's something that can be done. And when you have it done, then you have it. You have a body of work to carry around and you can add to it over time. Once you have your portfolio, you don't have to keep making another one and another one, right? Do you have do you have your own YouTube channel or a website or streaming channel? Is it on YouTube? That's okay. That doesn't bother me. That's okay. Um, and I'm telling you these things as I'm telling myself. Oh, hi, Squishy. Yeah, I'm on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So I was talking on one of them. Like if I click it, it'll bump me out of it. I think I'm talking on Twitch. Yeah. This is not a replay, Squishy. I'm live right now. Hi. Um. What am I saying? What I'm saying is I'm saying these things because um I need that as much as I'm saying it. Right? It's something that I'm working on at the moment. I'm working on building my character portfolio, and if I if I look at the completed portfolio instead of at every individual piece, not only will I not make a good portfolio, but I will become so overwhelmed that I won't have the motivation to do it. A lot of times, lack of motivation comes from being overwhelmed at the magnitude of what we're aiming for. But you don't build a portfolio in a day, it takes time. But the more you draw and the more you practice, the easier it comes and the better it gets. Right? You will get better the more you draw. It's one of those things where you may not be the best gymnast or you may not be the best at a subject. Art is a little different where everyone looks at people and says, "Oh, well, I don't have that talent, so I can't possibly do it." Actually, you can if you just put in the time and effort. Art can definitely be uh, something you can improve the more you do it. Now, it's important to learn the right lessons because if I just sit here and draw circles over and over and over again, that's not going to help me to paint like a Komodo dragon, right? But it will help me to draw more organic shapes. And those shapes help me to construct things like the Komodo dragon, right? It's a building block, it's a piece, it's a necessary step. So don't hyper focus on any one particular thing or one particular style, but when you're focused on a particular task, do that thing the best that you can. And one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten from artists that have way more years of experience than I do is that if you don't like a drawing, throw it away, start something else. Don't get hung up on something you don't like. Just start over, do something else. It's really, really easy to get so frustrated and bang your head against a wall because you want that thing to be exactly as you picture it in your head. But if it's just not coming, then don't force it. It's probably not going to get there. Start something else. Draw something new. Come back to it later. Maybe don't throw it away, but put it aside. You could keep it in a little notebook or a binder. Keep it out of the way. Don't think about it for a while. Come back to it later. Maybe in that time you will have improved by practicing, and you'll go back to it and say, oh, I could draw that. Oh, I could do this a lot better. Why did I draw that line that way? I should have done it like this. And you can only say that after you've actually improved and learned something, which you can only have happen by doing. Like I said, I'm talking to myself as much as I am to you. Because I've been there so many times. Not as much lately. But I'll tell you, I've been streaming for several months now, multiple times a week, usually. And it has helped me so much just to get work done. Why? Because, well, I have to. I've I've promised other people, but I've also, more importantly, I've promised myself. I've promised myself that I would do it. And, maybe people will look at my art and say, it's okay. Not my cup of tea. That's fine. But if I if I don't follow through on promises I make to myself, talk about lack of motivation. If I can't even count on myself, then how can I do anything? You should be the one person that you can count on because you have the ability to take action to do it. Now, I'm not sponsored by this website or anything, but if you go to creatureartteacher.com, they have crazy affordable art lessons and they have sales all the time. And so if you're looking to improve stuff, I recommend that you draw things and seek out things that you don't normally draw. It's like, why would I want to do that? Well, because when you stretch your brain in that way, just like if you were to lift a gallon of milk versus a stack of books, your muscles still improve, right? Your muscle is still working. It's still doing something. And so by stretching your brain in a way that it doesn't expect, you might work different muscles that actually make other things you're trying to do come more naturally. Raid Shadow Legend. Is that the thing that's always popping up on phones? Like, oh, Raid Shadow Legend, come play. I do play I do play games, but I don't play that one. But Creature Art Teacher, I recommend it because I've used it and it's helped me a lot. Um, and it's run by a former Disney animator, so it's not just some random person, but someone who actually knows their stuff. And it's not just courses by him. He's got other artists from various specialties that also uh, teach lessons on his website. So, highly recommend if you're looking to maybe get knowledge somewhere other than YouTube. Not that YouTube isn't a great source, because it actually is, but it's really easy to fall down a YouTube rabbit hole. It's creatureartteacher.com. If you just type all 3 words and put .com at the end, that's the website. If it wasn't for him, I would have no idea what I'm doing painting digitally. Where's the blend? But yeah, like I said, not sponsored, just very grateful. Oh, no, I'll type it. I'll type it. I think I spelled it right. But yeah, he's a former Disney animator and director, so he definitely knows his stuff. Ship Snipboard.io. No, I'm not. Oh, thank you, Jaden. Yep, working on it little by little. I'm blending some of it now. Yeah, I don't usually use sites that are IO. Maybe it's just a stigma I have because of when I was a teacher. I was always those were always the sites that the students were sneaking video games and other stuff on. Uh, Stigma like a negative reinforced idea. If the art is on your channel, I can just always go to that. I can check it out after my stream is done. Okay. Then that's what I'll do. Oh, thank you so much, Jaden. Appreciate it. It's Jaden, it's lots of practice. I also have a animation certificate from Animation Mentor, so I've done a lot of animation through that school, as well as learning some more techniques and things from Aaron Blaze. Yeah, thanks. It's old now. um, it didn't get me, or I'm not gonna blame the certificate. Uh, my reel wasn't good enough. While I still had Maya to get a job because it was so competitive. But what it did do was it opened a doorway for me to develop and teach a graphic arts elective at the school that I was already teaching English at. And so I developed the elective course for the middle schoolers and created the projects and trained other teachers in how to use the software and watched it blossom from just a few campuses to a bunch of campuses and kind of helped oversee some of that on and off throughout my time as a teacher. I'm no longer a teacher, um, but I still like to help people. It's not really self-promoting, Luco. If you don't put yourself out there, then how can you get the things you want, right? Asking for a critique is not self-promotion. That, I'll check it out. Right, back to the blender. That's a little better. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, Jaden. I'm actually working on building a character design portfolio because that's something I would really love to do. Um, I think I've been having a lot of fun building it up, and I've seen what good portfolios look like, and I feel confident in my general drawing and painting abilities. It's really just a matter of building that portfolio to the same standard that I would like to exhibit. So it's getting there, little by little. Something is off. The lighting on the head is making the head look like it has a weird shape. I might need to go back to the multiply layer and blend some of this out. It's giving it a strange look. That feels a little better. Yeah, me too, Jaden. Streams are always so much more fun when people are here. Thank you for being here. It makes my day. Sometimes it's just me the whole time. which is fine occasionally, not every time. This is Clip Studio Paint. I have the latest version, version 3 EX. They had a sale a few months back, and I switched from the what is it, Studio version 1 that I had been using to the new one. The new one lets me animate, which is something I really have fun doing when I set aside time to actually play around with it. Sometimes it takes a few different passes of blending things together to get it to look the way I want. Let's go back to the blender. Just lightly knock those in. Let me see. Oh yeah, no problem. But yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff in here. If I go to new file, you can see the menu on here. So the full version, the EX version that I have, lets you do illustrations and high resolutions, like super high resolution. There's no need to go to 1200. I can't think of a reason that you would actually want to have 1200 DPI. Uh, Even 350 is probably a little more than necessary. 300 is a good number. I wouldn't go any lower unless you're doing stuff um, like emojis or icons that don't really need that pixel density and would probably have a problem if you tried to upload a file of that size. Um, 300 or 350 is good. 600 I've played around with. The problem when you go extra high on these numbers is that some of the brushes that you're used to using in the lower settings start to look really strange because they're not designed for that much pixel resolution. And so staying in this range is much better. You can also do, what is it? They have Webtoon format built in, um, comics. You can do multi-page fanzine style printing. There's a bunch of different other comic settings, and there's also animation, and it gives you a whole uh, timeline to edit around on and layers. I think the layers are unlimited. I have yet to find a limit to the layers, but I could just keep adding them up, and they don't run out. So why did I do that to myself? Why did I just add so many layers? Undo, undo. Sometimes I get overzealous. Oh, that's the blender. All right, I think I'm gonna focus on the face for tonight because I don't have enough time for everything else. So we'll just stay focused here and try to get this thing looking even better than it does. I am getting a little distracted by the lines on the face, and so I'm going to turn those off. And so this is all just paint now. All the no, the sketch is not visible. And so what I'm going to do, add another layer. I'm going to come in and, I could do a multiply layer, or I could do some other kind of layer effect, but I think what I'm going to do instead is grab kind of like a light grayish blue. This might be too bright, but I will try it out. How does this look? Too bright. It's almost there. Might need to be a little more green and gray. Okay, a little too far. Go back down here. Nope, still not quite right. Let's do that. It's gotta be here. That's pretty close. And I'll probably make my brush a little bit bigger. The scales around the nose are actually larger. The other thing I try to do when I'm painting from photo reference is I try to use it more for inspiration rather than 100% accuracy. It's really easy, especially with something as complex as scales, to get like over focused and get things crooked. What I'll do is I'll just kind of follow my gut, and if something seems right, I'll stick with it. If I need to alter the angle of a scale or a crease, or whatever it is, to make it look a little more accurate to the shape, then I'll do that. I won't say, well, that's not how it is in the photo. There's actually a few different colors up in here. The other thing I can do is I can always go back over some of these and add those dark defining lines that create the 3D look on the scales. Any other questions or things anybody wants to talk about? This probably doesn't need to go that high. Something over here, a little bit of there. And then we'll do darker and cooler. Let some of this area kind of smooth out a bit. The more important thing about this part of the nose is just the overall value, not so much the individual scales. I'll go back over those later to define them. Oh, automatic save, but it's probably a good time to do a regular save as well. Yeah, this is a nice transition color over here. You guys still out there? Water break. All right, folks, I think that's where I'm calling it for tonight. It's coming along. Lots of little details and colors and values. This one's definitely pretty fun so far. Oh, thank you, Luco. My pleasure. I'll check out your channel. Will it let me? I'll check it out after the stream. All right. Have a fantastic night, and I'll be back again on Thursday at the same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, and hope I see you there. Bye, everybody.